What's going on? I am super excited to talk to Lyndsay Phillips today. She is a marketing guru who knows so much about podcasting, so much about content marketing. And, I'm not going to go into detail about what she does because she's so amazing. Let her tell her little backstory. So, Lyndsay, can you give a little bit of backstory of what you do and how you're able to help people?
You betcha. I actually used to be a VA firm, and then we were doing such amazing things with content marketing for our clients. And honestly, I just liked it more. I hated the admin. I loved our podcasting, podcast production, launches, promotion. And then the third is specifically for real estate investors to help them market their business and build their authority and relationships.
That is so amazing. I know you have Smooth Business Growth, which is one of your companies, and then you have REI Marketing, which helps investors kind of build out their systems and pretty much allow them to put out content. But today we're going to be talking about podcasting because that's kind of a hot topic right now. A lot of people love podcasting because they're able to use the stream on multiple platforms at once. They're able to repurpose content very easily, especially if they're doing video marketing. So it's an amazing subject to go over. So we're going to be talking about how to 10x your leads with podcasting. So let's break it down.
Alrighty. Well, the first thing, of course, podcasting, there's kind of a few different ways to go, right? You can be a podcast guest. And so I call that podcast guesting, like me. So how to leverage that for more leads and more conversions. And then there's podcast hosting. But of course, hosting, I kind of break it down into two areas. One is you're hosting your own show and you're talking about your expertise and you're giving people tips. And then there's hosting where you have a guest and you're interviewing them. And so some people just kind of dive into one, not really knowing the difference. And because it really depends on what your goals are, in which way you need to go. So like if you're podcast guesting, the benefits of that are you are building your authority because you're showing your credibility and your expertise. You're able to increase your leads dramatically because usually you share like a lead magnet or a webinar that's coming up or something. And you increase your visibility exponentially because obviously you're going to share it and the host is going to share it. And of course, it's content, right? It's right. Without having to create and reinvent the wheel. Now, on the hosting side, it kind of depends what your goals are. So if you're wanting to build your expertise and your credibility and really look like a leader in your space, then it would be good to host a podcast and it just be you, or even if you co-host it with someone, which is what I do, where you can kind of showcase what you know and your expertise. So that is kind of like the bigger goal. And obviously if you get like a bazillion downloads, you can monetize it and get sponsors and all that good stuff. And then if you're wanting to increase your visibility exponentially and you want to increase your networking and really meet some people that are your ideal client that you want to build relationships with, then it's good to be a host where you're interviewing. Like I know someone where, well, I know quite a few, but where they interview people that really they want as a client. And they make them look good and they build that relationship. And then they're like, oh man, you're so fantastic. What do you do? How can you help me? And then so it's a great lead gen and relationship builder and networking for them. And obviously, again, exponentially increase their visibility. So it really depends on what your goals are, on what area of podcasting that you need to go down. And I just find that people don't really think ahead about that before they dive in. So that is really crucial.
So for me, I interview people, but then I have some of just me talking. Would you say that's the bad way of doing it, or is that?
Not at all. And it's funny you say that because I find a lot of people feel like they need to, once they launch a podcast, that it has to like stay that way forever. Or right. Like they get so caught up, right? And like, what if the intro is this and I don't like it? And then you freaking can it and you get a new one. Or like if you want to mix it up and like sometimes it's you and sometimes it's a co-host and sometimes it's an interview, it's all good, right? As long as you're providing value and people in your engaging listeners and you're growing your audience, then it's all good. You don't have to like be a certain way. And once you get that way, it has to stay that way. you can change it up and do whatever you want, as long as you're consistently putting out content.
Yeah, I think that's so important with just anything on social is putting out content, because if you're not putting out content, no one's ever going to see it, because obviously it's just hidden away. So how do people actually monetize a podcast?
That is its own beast for sure. And there's different ways. I mean, you can people that you're interviewing, or if you're a guest or so forth, you can tap into other people's affiliate programs, right? Like if you have someone on the show and they're plugging a lead magnet and a product or whatever, you can then be an affiliate, and then you can push that out. And so you can get passive income through, those affiliate relationships. You can monetize it by building those relationships and doing joint ventures with them. Right. I have friends and colleagues that do like giveaways and summits, and just the way they kind of do the back end, it's a joint venture and they both have win-win and make money. Now, typically, of course, you think of like sponsorship spots, right? But it's not for everyone. And everyone thinks that, you can just put out a podcast and people are going to buy all these commercials and spots. But you really need to be an influencer or a leader in your industry and have a lot of downloads in order to capitalize on that. And it's a freaking lot of work, right? Like you've got to like figure out the format that you're going to do, how much a spot's going to cost. And then when someone does sponsor your podcast, you got to think about all the assets and all the benefits that you give them that you then got to track and do. You got to showcase them, in a banner or on your website, or you do a Facebook ad or whatever it may be. Like there's a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah, it definitely can be. I mean, especially with a sponsorship, because like you said, you need to put all that extra work into it to make a good investment for the actual sponsor. And if they don't get a return on their investment, they're going to feel like they got gypped, or it could essentially lose that relationship. And so I find that finding sponsors are a little bit more difficult than, say, like you were saying earlier, doing affiliates or highlighting, doing joint ventures, or just leveraging the guest of the employee of the podcast, so that you're able to use their audience and use your audience to kind of bring in more leads. Not only that, I find that a podcast is great for just building authority and on other platforms. So can you go into a little bit more detail of how a podcast can get you 10x more leads than, say, just going live on your Facebook and talking to your audience?
For sure. There's a few elements here. And one is, so if you are being a guest or you have an interview, I mean, naturally you're 10 times in your, whatever the word is that even a word? You're multiplying your visibility, because, I'm sharing and they're sharing and they show two friends and they show, it just kind of naturally does that. But here's the kicker. There are so many hosts and guests that don't even like share it. Like it blows my mind. And like if I as a guest have to like hunt you down to be like, did it go live? I have no idea. And then those episodes, they just slip through the cracks and they don't get leveraged and you don't get the exposure. So like that is like you're missing out on those major opportunities. I've had some hosts where I actually was just on a show and it went live, and they gave me like swipe files and like click to tweets and obviously the image and the link to their page. And I'm like, that's the way it's done, people.
Yeah.
Make it easy.
Yeah. If you can make it easy, people like easy and they're able to just share it. I mean, when I was talking with Steven Larson from ClickFunnels, he sent me all these swipe files. They sent me this nice banner. Yeah. I just posted on my Instagram and I posted on, all these other platforms. And it was so nice because they just did it for you. But again, that, that takes more time, that takes more effort, kind of like using sponsorships. So, having a VA or someone that can help you with that, or having a service like you have, will definitely help with getting more exposure. But what I like also is you're able to, and we were just talking before this about having a blog, but you're able to leverage sending out to these third-party companies like Anchor FM, or that kind of blast it to Spotify, to Breaker, to all these different things which then backlink to your website, which create
Absolutely.
more authority for your website, which
And
just
SEO.
allows you to get more traffic and SEO. So I think it's amazing that you're able to do that. So how do you actually find guests?
There's a few ways. I mean, honestly, because I've been doing it for so long, I get people asking me constantly, like, to be a guest. And don't say yes to everything, because sometimes it's not a fit, right? Like sometimes your topic won't fit their audience. Sometimes their avatar isn't your avatar. Sometimes they want you to talk about something about your business that really isn't going to give you leads or push towards a certain service that you have. So don't be afraid to be picky, right? Don't be on a show just for the sake of being on a show. But there are services, right? Like there's, I don't want to name anyone because I'll leave someone out and they'll be mad. But there are some amazing guest booking services out there, and that's what they do for a living to make it easy on you, right? But don't be afraid to have your VA as like send out emails like, oh my God, I love your show. Here's why. And I think I'd bring a lot of value to your show because I would love to share this. Make the pitch super like simple, not long-winded. Make sure you've got a link to your one sheet that gives examples of different topic ideas or questions and show that you're an expert and you've been on shows before. And just make sure that you track it. You know, how many shows have I pitched? How many said yes? You have to follow up because not everyone pays attention to your emails, but you have to be persistent. And it's all about connections. Like I've had people like, oh, you were a fantastic guest, blah, 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 and I say, hey, who do you know that would love to, be on this show? Or who, what other shows do you know that I would make a great guest as? So don't be afraid to ask those questions. And I've sent emails to hosts because I've got friends that just speak about amazing things. And I'm like, Melanie, she's my client. She's fantastic. She would be such a great guest on your show. Here's her stuff. Would you like, her to be on? So there's just kind of that networking and being a connector, helping other people out that are hosts and vice versa. And it just comes back tenfold.
Yeah.
And another good one. So there are tons of Facebook groups that are all about podcasting. Like there's obviously Podcast has their own, but there's like She Podcast, Podcast Academy with Yana Lunga. So those groups are really good because there's always people asking like, oh, I'm looking for a guest that knows this. Right. And then maybe you know one or they do. So get involved in those Facebook groups. There's some great networking and great opportunities.
Yeah, I find that if you can also leverage other guests is huge. Like for instance, I have Alex Sharfin with Billionaire Code or Sharfin. He has a couple brands, but I leveraged him from Stephen Larson, and then I actually have Taylor Welch on my show coming up in November. So just by leveraging other high influencers, you're able to find more quality guests. So would you think that going on a podcast is more beneficial, or do you think hosting a podcast is more beneficial for the actual company?
That's again, going back to kind of what your goals are and what you need to do. Do you really need to focus on your authority platform and up leveling so you can, just your status, your expertise, so you can get high caliber clients, charge more or whatever? Right. Or do you just need to extend your reach, or do you need leads? If you really want to grow your e-list and get more people, in your community, guesting is definitely at the top because you're the one that, to me, I'm like, there's a lot of bang for your buck, right? Like you get to make great connections, you make good relationships, you connect, you get to share your expertise in your sphere. And people think, oh my God, she's everywhere. She's on this show, she's on that show, she's doing her own show. Like they're just like, ooh, it's kind of like when you have a book, right? Like, damn, she's an author. Like you just get instantly like, ooh, right? It's just the way it is. So I do find podcast guesting is it's at the top of my list, especially for lead generation.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, but going into lead generation, and because we were talking about kind of 10 times in your leads with podcasting, now we mentioned making sure that, you share it with the guest and the host so that it actually gets promoted and tracked. But the other missed opportunity I find is that people just don't promote the podcast enough, whether they're a guest or whether they're a host. They like put it out on social for like a couple of posts and like that's it. And so like you need to put it everywhere. Like LinkedIn has articles, right? It used to be called LinkedIn Pulse. I honestly find that they get more traction than just like a regular, like a social media post. And to put the whole blog podcast post in there. And then you mentioned some other great resources like Bigger Pockets. You can post it in Bigger Pockets as an article. Make sure you email your list. It is amazing how many people do not email their list when a new podcast goes live, whether it's their podcast or they showcase themselves as a guest. Share it. And then if you're a host and it's your show, if like right now you're going live in Facebook, if you have the app, love this app, repurpose.io, you can strip it and pull it out, make it into like a regular podcast, the audio. You can push it to YouTube. It'll reformat it so you can push it to IGTV. So there are apps to automate this and make it a lot easier so that your content is everywhere. And that is key.
Yeah, and we'll definitely link to Repurpose.io. I love Repurpose.io. I used to actually use it a lot, but I use Camtasia now just to strip the audio and then push it using Anchor. But what I love about Repurpose is you can actually turn it into smaller clips to put into your story, and it does reformat it into both IGTV and stories and posts, and then it also hits all the other platforms. So it's quite amazing the amount of software that we have nowadays to really save ourselves a lot of time. That's huge. And I think that a lot of people, like you were saying, they don't push their content enough. I mean, you can do it organically by just hitting up your chat bots. You can do it with email. You can do it on your feed. You can rebump old podcasts on Facebook.
It's green content, so like, reuse it.
So there's so many opportunities. Would you say that right now would be a good time to actually run traffic to a podcast? Say, for instance, on your blog or where you actually strip it. Say you use like Rev or Temi to strip all the audio to turn into actual SEO content and then run traffic to that and then repixel them? Or is that something that you think that is not a good strategy at this point?
I haven't seen many people do paid ads for it, but I have had people boost posts. So if you boost a post, then you can kind of get it in the face of your ideal client, right? And plus it's like you're warming up cold leads, right? With podcasts, because you're sharing great content. You're not selling to them.
Right.
So that's been really useful. But I do want to cover the whole blog post portion of your podcast. So I find some podcasters will only showcase their podcast like through Libsyn's like links or feed, or they only share iTunes, or they have like, I don't know, just a weird podcast page that only showcases the podcast. It's weird. But you definitely want to create like a blog post, if you will, where there is like the image and the audio player. And there's great audio players like Simple Podcast Press, Fusebox, where it's branded and you can even like do a lead capture. Again, that's really key for, 10 timing your leads and taking advantage of that audience to build your e-list. But then underneath it, you can use your transcripts, but with Google and SEO, you want to make sure that the transcripts are altered so that it reads easier and that it's more of a summary and that it is keyword rich. Because if you just put the transcripts in the post as is, it's not going to rank as well as if it was like, because you can take it and make like headlines and alter it to make sure that it's keyword rich so that it's SEO friendly and that you're trying to rank for a specific keyword in that podcast to drive traffic and also have backlinks and blah, blah, blah. But just want to make sure that you don't just throw the transcripts in and then leave it willy-nilly, because that just won't be as effective. But, and then also when you are doing that blog post, you want to drive traffic to that so that people will see, like on the sidebar, your widgets to opt in for XYZ, or join your Facebook group, or buy a product. And then also on that post, you're going to want to have various images and break up the text. And on the bottom, have a specific call to action, whether it's just like a nice graphic that clicks out to something to get a free, XYZ, or I know the dreaded pop-up. But you want to make sure that you are having calls to action on that page to convert. And that's a big strategy where you're driving traffic to your website and you're using the call to actions to bring more people into your community and also convert. And that's how you're going to 10 times your leads using the power of podcasting. So you kind of have to do all those strategies and all those steps, and not just release a podcast and hope the world listens and buys your stuff.
Right. And that's huge. I mean, if you guys need to replay that again, because that was just that will 100x your business.
Yeah, I know it was a lot.
No, that's great. I mean, I know a lot of the Evergreen Profits does similar things where they take and they summarize the post. They make it SEO rich. They have all their opt-ins. They pixel it based on retargeting for either Facebook or Google Tag Manager, and they do the exact same thing. And that's an epic strategy. You guys definitely need to follow that method. That is huge for your business, and especially to 10x or even 100x your leads, depending on where you are. What other little tidbits of information that you can give us? Because that was $1 million answer right there.
Oh, thanks. Well, going with SEO, I definitely recommend using a plugin. If you should have WordPress, SEO Yoast really will help guide you so that you know how to SEO that page, because it tells you, oh, you forgot to add this, or you forgot to do this. Don't forget the alt tag on your image. And it gives you like, yellow, green, red, like you suck, you're great, this page is fantastic. And they obviously have tutorials and stuff like that, or, you can hire an SEO company, but that plugin will really help you. Now, what I also love is leveraging podcast even further. Because like you and I, Brandon, like we're crazy busy. We're running a business. We have a team. We're doing our own deals on the side, whatever. And it's like there's so much to do. It's like your own business, just doing your content marketing. There's blogs, there's videos, there's social. It can feel super crazy overwhelming. And so why not use the power of podcasting, leverage it even further instead of reinventing the wheel every week? And don't, like you right now are doing the video. So you've got video, you're utilizing, the algorithms of Facebook and, interacting with people, stripping it for audio with repurpose, and then pushing it out to IGTV and so forth. But think about that one podcast episode. Think about how many golden nuggets, tips are in that episode. So you can either listen to it or get the transcripts and pull little tidbits out and make quote graphics, more IG stories or Facebook stories, just from like a tiny tip. Like right now, you could make a tip about using repurpose to, leverage your podcast and pull it out to do this, that, and the other. And that is like, I call it a standalone tip. I also call it a snackable bite. It's like a little snackable bite of like the bigger thing. And then so like one episode is like a bazillion nuggets. So there's like a ton of social content, and that's shareable. And then the other thing is look at it differently. Look at it on like, how can I create a conversation with someone? So if you, again, have a podcast, I can't think of an example right now because my brain's fried on a Friday, but you can think of like an engagement question. So it could be like, what's your favorite way to promote a podcast? This, or this. And then people will like answer, right, in the post. So that's a way to kind of get that interaction from people, asking people's opinions and getting them to like or just kind of get involved. So it doesn't always have to be like an actual tip. It can just be like a question, or getting someone's feedback, or asking their opinion, or do you like this or this better? So that's like, you could create 5 more posts right there just from that one episode. And with all the tips, that's like 10 social media posts from one podcast. You've got your blog post. And if you add more text in there, or extra tips, or even add a video on that page, that is like your pillar piece of content that you can SEO up the yin yang. And like, you're just, instead of doing like a blog post, a video post, a podcast post, and they're all kind of like, okay, you can just use that one format and that one strategy and really like squeeze the lemon, like leverage the hell out of it and make it good. And that's all you need to do.
Wow, I love it. And I know that you have actually a 14-day kind of lead magnet or free gift that you're actually giving our listeners. Where can they actually leverage you to get that? Because I think that is amazing piece of content right there that they can just, I mean, if you can copy success and you've already kind of showed them the groundwork, now they're going to actually get a little nugget even more on top of this. So where can people actually get that?
Yeah, then go to smoothbusinessgrowth.com/moneyfriends. And so, yeah, it's 2 weeks worth of free content. So there's blogs, nurture email, video scripts, social media posts, images. You just honestly need to take it. You can tweak it with your own voice and deploy, and away you go.
Wow, that's amazing. I know a lot of people struggle with content. We've already went over a lot of great tactics on how you can use one piece of content like this podcast, turn it into Rev and turn it into a transcript. I think even YouTube has their own little transcript, little tool there. And then you can turn that into SEO. You can leverage a VA to turn that into SEO content, like a pillar content, and make it very either using Rank Math or Yoast to pretty much make it so it's SEO optimized.
Yes.
And then from there, you can do all sorts of other things by, like we were talking about, repurpose. You can do a little snippets, little bite-sized nuggets. You can turn it into a mini series, so many different things. So just by using one piece of content. So I think that's amazing. You guys should be able to create months of content, but
totally.
Lyndsay is going to give you a amazing 14-day content creation that you guys can leverage so easily. So definitely check that out at smoothbusinessgrowth.com/moneyfriends, and definitely take advantage of that. So where can more people find out more about what you do, how they can see everything, all the amazing things you do? I know you do some things with real estate investors, which is my cup of tea, but you do social media content too. So where can people find out more about who you are and how they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, if they're just in the zone for real estate investors and they want marketing to help them, they can go to reimarketingexperts.com. And then, of course, if they want to see, the full gamut of who I am and what I do, they can go to smoothbusinessgrowth.com.
Love it. That's amazing. And you guys definitely need to check that out. Take advantage of that 14-day content creation that she's already set aside for you guys, so you guys can take advantage of that. And thank you so much for jumping on here. I know that
it was fun.
We're going to have some extra content that you guys can take advantage of in our VIP section. So definitely check that out. But thank you so much again. And smoothbusinessgrowth.com/moneyfriends. Thanks so much. Have a good one. Peace.